Hi, I'm Tillman Sandillo, and this is my testimony. So I've always my family definitely made it aware that we were like Christians and we grew up in a Christian household. But like we didn't go to church, and like I wasn't really old enough to know like what to believe when I'm like 5 or 4 years old. But like I was born in definitely a toxic household. My parents with like excessive drinking, and I'm honestly grateful for that, because if they weren't like that when I was younger, I'd probably be a different person who I am today. Like I want to be the same person, and that's just one of like the ways Jesus works silently, like you definitely know. And then in about, I want to say, second grade is the first time my mom went to rehab for excessive drinking because she was an alcoholic. And then after that, she went about 2 more times. And on the third time, in about, I'd say October 2020, October 2020, my parents did get a divorce right after her rehab. So that definitely broke me down a bit. And I didn't necessarily know what divorce meant when I was that age, when I was about 10. And then as soon as I started getting to like realize it means like my parents aren't together, I definitely like didn't know what to think. Definitely wasn't happy in life at that time. Definitely was like going through some hard stuff with that, because that's a pretty big deal to me. And then when that happened, I just started to become like all this attention seeking. Like I used to dye my hair, I used to draw my face, it was just to be the class clown. And at that time, like I know I was still young, but about like 10 or 11, I didn't really believe in anything, just because I never got like necessarily a taste of all religions, and I didn't really believe a lot of stuff when I was that age. So I wasn't really Christian, I wasn't really anything exactly at that age. And then my stepmom probably came around 2020, after my parents got divorced, like 2021. And we definitely had a rocky couple years around us between 2020 and 2024, probably. Like definitely wasn't the nicest to her, and she wasn't the nicest to me. And like we both went through our stuffs for sure. But then about like started 2025, we really started gaining a relationship. I'm genuinely grateful for that, because like I'm genuinely happy she's with my dad and that they're actually like good together and belong together. Like I'm happy my dad found his person. And then about that time, my mom was like maybe 3 months of her sobriety. And then I'd say in about like 6th grade, I still was attention seeking, like even buzzed my hair, regret that so much. But yeah, in 6th grade, I was attention seeking. And then about 7th grade is when I finally got my act up and started being a little more mature. And then I started being more mature in 7th grade. Nothing really happened in 7th grade besides I was just going through like a genuinely tough time in general. Like especially 7th grade summer, I don't know what it necessarily was. And I know I was like at a young age, but I genuinely like had suicidal thoughts for those couple months. Maybe around like April through at least October of that time. And it got even so bad where I did attempt one time in that summer. It was in July, I remember. And then thankfully like I survived, and I'm so grateful for that, honestly. And it's like it's a little hard for me to like say that out loud, because like none of my family even knew I tried. Barely any of my friends knew I tried. So that's just like a little emotional for me on a different level, because it's like, oh, you're so young, you can't feel like that. It's like, okay, but I did. Like I genuinely felt so emotional from it, and I just didn't know how to feel. I just didn't feel good at all. And so I tried, and it didn't ended up working. And I'm so grateful for that. And that was about the time where I started going to church more, but like necessarily in 7th grade, I wasn't going for the church for the right reasons. I was really going for just friends and everything, which that's not a good reason to go. So like that's when I started saying I believed in God, but like I didn't really know Jesus at that time. So that definitely, like seeing back from it now, it definitely just makes me feel guilty because I went for church for the wrong reasons. And then after that, I've been to church forever since 7th grade, and it's definitely got better for me. I'd say probably around start of November is when I really started to, definitely around like November, I started to take church seriously. And then like ever since then, I've gotten a lot better. And I've like realized like I've always had like a guilty conscience of like, oh my gosh, I don't want Jesus to think of me this way. I don't want like him to genuinely like judge me. I was so worried, just wanted his like forgiveness, and I wanted everything just like to die down and for me to stop with that stress, because I genuinely had like super bad stress from it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this right, I'm not gonna make it to heaven, all that. And then like that's when I started realizing like he genuinely will forgive you. Doesn't matter if you do fall into lust, doesn't matter if you curse, he will forgive you if you genuinely repent. And that made me like realize like, oh my gosh, the stress just went off my back. And I was so like appreciative of that. And then I'd say around January is when like I started like just talking to this girl, and like it didn't go bad at all. Like we're on good terms for sure, but just like it was a little bit draining, and that made me like my mental health died down a little bit. In April is when like we probably officially ended, where like definitely mental health wasn't going the best. And oh, I forgot to say, like in about, I want to say February, March is when I made my Bible account. And I was like, okay, I want to spread the gospel in some sort of way. How am I going to do it? So I started spreading the gospel on my Bible account. And then I'd say around start of June is when I went to church camp. And that like really got me like hooked on Jesus a lot more. And like, I'm not going to say I wasn't hooked up on him already, but like, it's just like the church camp glow for me. It's just like the Jesus rise at church camp was so good for me, and I'm appreciative of that like I was able to go. And that when it got me like my faith way higher, all this. But like the whole time for me, like I've been struggling with lust forever, so it's like very hard for me to like stop. And it's like I've tried, and it's like what I realized is like you genuinely have to run away from it. The whole time I was just fighting it. You have to run away, because once you step in that ring, you've already lost. There's no doubt you've already lost if you stepped in that ring against lust. So I'm definitely like, I've gotten a lot better with lust, and I'm proud of me for that. And about a couple months ago, my mom got like a boyfriend, and like he's a great guy. I love him. I honestly and genuinely do, and I'm so like appreciative for him, because he definitely does a lot for me. And not only that, is I genuinely got to see my mom fall in love with someone again, and seeing her happy genuinely makes me so happy and so proud of not just her but them as a couple. And then I'd say about August, not August, but like this summer, me and my sister Stella definitely got closer in that time frame. And it's like we've definitely got closer because we started like maturing, and we started growing up, and be like, okay, hey, you watch for my back, I watch for yours. And it's like, for me, it's hard to like say I love you or hug someone, which like I love my sister to death, and I'd take a bullet for her, and I genuinely mean that. It's just hard for me to say it to her face for some reason. And even like still today, this month, whenever, like we'll get into arguments, we'll get into fights, but like we get better from that. We apologize, and like we're always there for each other no matter what. We'll always be proud for each other for no matter what we do. It's just sometimes we're both rude to each other, or we're both just not having the best day, which isn't an excuse at all. But it's just like me and her are definitely getting to learn like how to not, if you're having a bad day, how to not be rude to them. And I'm Tillman Sandillo, and this was my testimony.